Hi, everyone. Our guest on the bridge today is Dianna Smoot, the Chief Training and Education Officer of the Dallas Crimes Against Children Conference. I'm a huge fan of the Dallas Conference. I've been going to it for many years. In my opinion, it's the largest gathering of people who are dedicated to keeping kids safe, whether that's law enforcement, prosecutors, child safety experts, victim services advocates. Everybody seems to gather in Dallas every year. So, the reason why I wanted to chat with Dianna is just to give her a chance to tell everybody what they have in store for the Dallas conference this year. Of course, the talk of the town, the talk of the industry is that Tim Tebow is going to be attending the Dallas conference this year to deliver the keynote address. Super exciting. So, we definitely talked about that. I even asked Dianna whether or not they were going to bring back the mechanical bull for this year. If you know, you know. Dianna is an absolute rock star. I had a great time chatting with her. Hope you enjoy it. Hi, Dianna. Nice to be chatting with you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
First of all, tell us what you do. Tell us what you do at DCAC, and tell us about your role and all the fun things that go along with that.
So, I'm our Chief Education and Training Officer here at the Dallas Children's Advocacy Center. My job is really to coordinate training for a lot of different audiences. So, everybody from parents, and what does that look like here locally on how to keep your child safe? Child serving professionals, schools, faith communities, summer camps, all the way up to people who actually work these cases. So, law enforcement and Department of Family and Protective Services, prosecutors, medical professionals, and advocacy center staff. And we do that a couple of different ways. So, we have
Mhm.
ongoing training throughout the year, we have virtual training, and then we also host the Crimes Against Children conference. And so, my job is really the continuum of training here that DCAC offers.
That's amazing. So, when you're not focused on the conference, like what's your day to day like?
My day to day is a lot of partnerships. Who needs to know about us that doesn't yet? Who do we need to know about and befriend and try and learn more? I do everything from stakeholder meetings to really dreaming big with some of our organizations and some of our partners when they say, I heard this fantastic speaker. How do we make it happen? Could you get them at conference or can you get them at lecture series? And so, really, it's a cool job that I get to run across a lot of the different lanes. And my job and my team's job is to try and give people the tools they need to do their jobs better. And so that's a nice place to be, is to be the one that finds a way to say yes and finds a way to make something happen that people want to happen. And so it's really fun.
That's amazing. And you kind of touched on it because everybody's talking, and I guess we'll just jump right into this. But
Yeah.
everybody, so I'm really well connected across ICACs and child safety space, given my history at TikTok. And everybody that I have spoken to about the Crimes Against Children conference this year, everybody's talking about Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know that story. How did you guys pull that off? Because that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think every year, this is year 38 for us. We're constantly
Wow.
looking for how we can, do better and change and continue to be responsive to what our community needs. And, we never necessarily want like a big name speaker. We want somebody who can really mobilize our attendees and speak to their hearts and their mission and what keeps them in this work. And I'll say we got a new CEO who comes from Florida. And I think it was week 2. We were having a conversation about the keynote for this year. And she said, Tim Tebow, it's going to happen. I'm going to put it in the universe. And sure enough, we did some reaching out and just saw that there was some great synergy. He is doing so much good work and using his platform to raise awareness, not just in the field. I think in the field, he has this following, but also for him to be able to push boundaries and get people to listen and respond to these issues outside of that. And we just said we do everything bigger in Texas, and now's the time. And so everything worked out. We're so excited to welcome Tim to Dallas in just 2 weeks.
That's amazing. I'm thrilled for you guys. We have a wonderful relationship with the Tim Tebow Foundation as well. It's because we're kind of in a similar space where we really want to be that helpful
Mhm.
connective tissue, not just to law enforcement, but also to industry, advocacy groups and things like that. So I've spoken to a few members from his team and I've always come away really impressed.
Yes.
So I have high hopes.
Yes.
Besides Tim Tebow, what's got you most excited about this year's conference?
I love conference every year. I just love conference and it changes every year. I think the new thing that we're doing and what's so exciting and at the core, I think what gets me every year is how many people come together. You see thousands, literally thousands of professionals from all over the world, and they're all here for the same reason. And there is this energy. I try to tell people who've never been to conference, you just have to come to feel it and see it. And I can't explain it, but there's this camaraderie and community that instantly people feel like they belong there. Whether you've been there for decades or you've been there, this is your first time. And that feeling, I'm looking forward to that feeling again. And that's things like, here it is, a detective from Montana befriends somebody from Alaska and they stay in touch afterwards. It's some of the friends that we're going to see. I've been around conference for a very long time. And so seeing my speaker friends and my sponsor friends and exhibitors and volunteers, and also looking forward to making new friends this year. There's just something so unique and great about this really bright spot that is the conference within this field that is really difficult and hard. And so for me, it's both. I'm holding both.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to put it because there is like this energy at the Dallas conference every year. And I think it's because of how difficult the work is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be, one of two or three people at your small agency
That's right.
that works crimes against children, and you feel maybe alone, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have anybody to talk to. Then you show up to this
Mm-hmm.
event and it's like, oh my God, like there's 10,000 people here and everybody here is focused on the same goal, which is stopping the abuse and exploitation of kids. That's pretty cool.
We all get it. I think we've
Yeah.
all been in situations, if you've been in the field, that you've been the downer at a party. I think we all feel it so passionately, the work that we do. We want people to understand it's really critical that others outside of this, so parents and just general community, understand so that they can better protect kids. And I think sometimes that's a hard balance that people aren't ready to have that conversation. And so there's a safety about conference that you don't have to explain. If I tell people I oversee training for the conference, or, conference is my baby, or I've been here for a long time, people immediately get it. Same
Mhm.
with law enforcement, or same with our prosecutors. We love the work that we do. And to see all these people who've dedicated their lives to protecting kids. And to your point, we have a lot of people who are lone rangers in their agency, people who don't really have this support network. And so for 1 week, you come, no matter from a big agency or a small agency or everywhere in between, you come and you make friends and everybody gets it and supports each other while acknowledging that it's hard. We're not going to pretend it's not, but we're going to connect through that and have fun together and motivate each other. And then I think the best thing of conference is not what happens that week, it's what happens after, right? So we have this
Mhm.
great moment of energy and excitement and this recommitment for some people into the work that they do. Now go home and
Yeah.
protect kids. If you can tell, it's my favorite. I try not to tell people here, because I have other lines, but, you know, it's moderately my favorite. It really is my favorite. It is my
Oh,
favorite.
that's great. Well, I think that's helpful because for such an important event, you want to have people that are passionate
Mhm.
about it. So that's wonderful. When you said after, I thought you were going to maybe let everybody know that the mechanical bull is finally coming back.
So you've been around a while. Oh, no, not this year. We do have some stuff this year, but no mechanical bulls. Those days are behind us.
Okay, that's good to know. I can't get over it. And as much as I warn people that it's going to happen and to be ready for it, nobody ever believes me. But the party, the reception, where the floor starts to shake and everybody in the room starts looking around at each other like, is this like
Right.
structurally like going to
Safe.
hold up here? Yeah, people don't get it. That it's a really fun event. And further to your point, I've actually said to because we're a software company,
Sure.
we sell this product. And so our sales team, a lot of them have never had substantial interactions with law enforcement, let alone law enforcement that investigates crimes against kids.
Right.
And so I've been pushing and I think we're at a point now where we're almost going to make the Dallas conference kind of like an onboarding feature
Oh, I love it.
where, yeah, because the booth is really cool. And I remember the first year we had a booth, we had sales staff that again, but they haven't had that interaction with law enforcement. and they'd be at the booth with me, and I would have law enforcement from Oklahoma
Mhm.
come up to us and basically say, like, if it wasn't for you guys, I never would have had this wonderful resolution that
That's
we had
right.
on a case. You guys literally saved a kid's life.
That's right.
And I looked at this young girl from the sales team, and she's like, oh my God, like I never felt like meaning in,
Right.
jobs I've had in the past like this. So that's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Oh,
And we're going to have our biggest contingent that we've ever had
I
coming
love
to
it.
Dallas this year. Yeah.
I love it. We will
So it's very
show them
exciting.
a great time.
Oh,
And
we don't doubt it.
to your point, I think that's where we support each other. And I always tell people, don't call it a party. Like all my staff, I'm like, the celebration. You mean the celebration? But it is. It is a party. It's this way for people to connect and let go, and it's safe. And it's not wild, it's fun. And I can only imagine, you sit, these are people who are working these cases every day, but also you have traveled and now you are working in the sense of sitting in and absorbing heavy content all day for multiple days on end. There is no break to go to your family. There is no break to talk to a colleague. It's different.
Mhm.
And so I would think that the toll is a little bit different during conference week too. And so we try to help pull people back out of that. One way, of course, is the celebration on Wednesday. So here's some dinner and here is some dancing and here's some fun. We have the swag swap, where people can trade the coins and the patches, which is
Challenge
such a big
coins.
deal. And then even little things like our volunteers. We really work hard to source great volunteers that are able to bring this joy and positivity. So it might be a 45-minute passing period between classes, but I want you engaging with somebody who's going to say, we're so glad you're here. How can I help you get to the next place? To help bring people out of the content in those little snippets. And so, yeah, it is just such a neat event.
Shout out to your volunteers. This is basically what I do is I just travel around to different events most of the year. And the Dallas conference is really different in terms of if you even look halfway lost, there's going to be somebody in one of those volunteer shirts that's going to come up to you and say, where are you going?
Yep.
What are you doing? What do you need? How can I help?
Yep.
That doesn't happen at other events. So
Yeah.
that's really cool that you guys do that. I love that.
We have, and I think what most people don't know, so it's not just volunteer groups in the community that we use. A lot of the volunteers are our multidisciplinary team partners. So,
Okay.
what I also love, so sometimes it's our DCAC staff, they give some time to work the event. It's also our law enforcement, our CPS partners, our prosecutors, which I love the sense of ownership that they have too of our MDT welcomes everybody to Dallas. It might be DCAC's name on it, but it truly is our multidisciplinary team. And I think that just speaks volumes about their commitment to the work. It's not just these women's organizations that are volunteering in the community, it's our prosecutors who say, sign me up. I want to work in a
That's
workshop or
so
put me in this
cool.
really
Yeah.
busy spot. And so, yeah, it's neat.
That's awesome. Now, you are in charge of the agenda. Do I have that right?
I am in charge of the event, so I help with a little bit of everything.
Okay. Have you seen any sessions or presentations that you're really excited about for this year that you definitely want to let people know about ahead of time?
I'm excited about so many. I'm
Hmm.
going to take the easy way out here because if I say
The
one,
Codex
I'm going to
session,
make,
of
well, of
course.
course, Codex. We have so many great sessions that are coming. And to your point, it's this idea of how do we bridge the gap? We need partners that are both working these cases directly and then partners that are in, outside and adjacent and really helping us in this work. And so, how do we continue to become closer and closer so that we're better able to protect kids by learning from each other?
So, Discord is one of our
Hmm.
partners, and they have just hired a brand new director for their global law enforcement outreach and response team, who happens to be a very close friend of mine. And he said, oh, I've just been hired at Discord, but I missed the cutoff to get a presentation into
Mm,
Dallas conference. And I said, well, I mean, why don't I just ask Holly and I'll just give you 15 minutes of my session?
yeah.
And so Holly's like, yeah, absolutely, do that, because Discord's a big sponsor and a great partner for
Hmm.
you guys as well. So I'm going to do my Codex spiel that probably half the world has heard by now, but with some new stuff. I do have some new material. And then I'm going to turn it over to Discord
I
to
love
talk
that.
to law enforcement and make sure that every investigator in the room understands exactly what they need to do in order to have a fast and efficient submission of their legal process to the Discord team. So we're excited about it. And I think maybe it'll be a model for future sessions where we'll bring in other partners because Codex is really easy to use. It's sometimes a struggle for me to fill a 45-minute speaking slot because there's just not much I can, talk about. It's pretty intuitive. In terms of trying to make things new and fresh, that's really what we're after. So if you ever have any ideas for us, we would
Yes.
love to hear them.
I love it. So Holly and I were talking about this idea of, within our agency, we look at these cases to say they do not happen without collaboration. So no one entity could work these cases alone or fix it alone or protect a child alone. And so it is just so incredible to see that being modeled by our sponsors as well to say, hey, we need to be partnering together, not just with people directly working cases, but how are we partnering with each other and what opportunity then lives in that space? And so y'all's ears should have been like burning the other day. We were talking about how
Uh,
neat that is because truly all of this exists. The whole point of our conference, the whole point of our advocacy center is the idea of collaboration and people coming together. And so it's just neat to see that coming to the table through our sponsors.
for sure. And it feels to me, especially in, 2026, that there's a lot of different stakeholders that have a piece of the puzzle that needs to get solved. And I really see it with legal process. And this is, I know I'm going to butcher this quote, but our CEO claims to have come up with this quote, and it's a brilliant quote. I think he says 25 years ago, the best witness in a criminal investigation was a person.
Hmm.
And today it's a company.
Hmm.
It's very hard to imagine very many scenarios where an investigator tasked with, running an investigation into a child exploitation case, they're almost always going to have to be submitting
Yes.
a legal process to some sort of third
Yes.
party that holds valuable data to push that case forward. So we're kind of in that sweet spot too. You mentioned it right off the top that everybody seems to love you guys.
Hmm.
That's how we feel too.
Hmm. Yeah.
The police love us. We're
Right.
making their lives a lot easier. Our partners love us. We're making their lives a lot easier. So it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and how much further that can take the investigations. It's constantly evolving. Things are changing. And so we also know that there's limited manpower. This idea of our agencies might have these really robust units. And the reality is, as long as people are hurting kids, we need more people to be part of this fight.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when we
Mhm.
have partners who come to the table to say, let me make your life easier, or we can make this more efficient, the ripple impact that has on communities. And I think sometimes, we think cases, we think numbers, that's how we talk. And the reality is, how do we ground that that's a child? That's a
Yeah.
child, that's a family, hopes and dreams and everything wrapped into it. And that's really powerful. It's not just a product. It truly is a change maker in how it's impacting people.
I could not agree more. And this is something that I try really hard to push law enforcement for. I want to know when you have a good result
Hmm.
on a case
Yes.
because I get to hear about them a lot because I'm friends with a lot
Hmm.
of the investigators and I have that network. But I realize that a lot of the information that I would get just from a passing conversation where somebody would call me and say, hey, just so you know, that case you helped me out on 6 weeks ago, we just made an arrest.
Hmm.
Like, this guy's going to go to jail. Like,
Right.
thank you. I needed to do a better job of telling our staff, our
Hmm.
engineers, our customer success team, our verification
Hmm.
team, the sales team, everybody that, hey, just so you know, the work that you guys did on the back end to make Codex what it is kept a kid out of a trunk of a car
That's
or
right.
something like
That's
that,
right.
and that keeps people going.
Hmm.
And so that's really valuable. So for any law enforcement, if you're listening and you have a great result, I want to know about it
Yes.
because the team loves to hear about it, and they're going to go home and they're going to call their mom or their dad or
Yeah.
tell their husband or wife, guess what, I found out today that this wonderful result on a case that we helped on, and there's a lot of meaning there, which
It
is
is.
important.
Yeah. Especially, I think, too, when you're hearing or seeing things that are difficult, too. Right. And so sometimes you could get caught in the tragedy of what happens. And no doubt what happens to our kids is horrible. And kids are resilient and
Hmm.
kids heal and lives change. And so I think sometimes just being able to help pull people out of that space I can only imagine, if you're not seeing kids, if you're not hearing kids, but your impact is absolutely still there. And so how do you make sure that they see that impact? I'm wondering, that makes my wheels turn of like, how could conference help with that? And so that might be something that Holly and I think on, of how do we help collect some of those stories too.
Yeah, and this was something that I did a lot at TikTok as well, especially when it came to the emergency disclosure
Mm,
requests. So, you would have, sometimes it would be a proactive referral to law enforcement where somebody on the team at TikTok gets alerted to a live stream or something and there's something horrible
mhm,
happening.
mhm,
The moderators do amazing work, but nobody's perfect and
right.
things slip through. And so you would have this moderator that is just a regular person and is now seeing the most horrible thing that
Mhm,
they've ever seen
right,
in their life. And they have to refer it over to law enforcement, and then you never hear about it again.
right.
So I tried to make it a huge priority where I would follow up with the police afterwards and
Mm,
say, hey, how'd that go?
mhm,
And when I was able to ping those results over and say, hey, that kid that you saw threatening suicide on the live stream the other day, the police got there in
right,
time and they saved her.
right.
And, now she's getting treatment.
Yeah,
Like, that's amazing. That's why we all get into this
that's
line of work.
right.
It would be a lot less stressful if, we weren't involved in such a heavy topic,
That's
but
right.
that's kind of part of the payoff is when you do have a success, it's very meaningful.
Mhm. And it sticks with you. I think that's the other thing, a success, it's not a passing success. You know that that truly does change the trajectory, which is really powerful. There's also times where it doesn't work out great, right? And how do we sit
Yeah.
in that space too? And how do
Hmm.
we do better and support each other and look at things like vicarious trauma and be real about the impact of what that looks like? And I think we're getting better as the field of how do we hold both? How do we acknowledge, here's this really awesome thing we did, and here's where it really didn't, maybe it didn't hit the mark. Let's
Hmm.
embrace the fact that it was really hard. And what do we do differently next time? I think it's all of those things.
In Dallas a few years ago, we had this great session where we had a bunch of ICAT commanders in
Mhm.
one room and they, kind of just yelling at each other, and it was, but that's good. And I,
Yes.
I always think that more communication is better. And I feel like we don't do enough talking to each other. So getting in the same room is so much better than, being on a Zoom or
Right.
whatever. So I think that's a huge thing that the Dallas conference does really well. It gets a lot of the most important stakeholders in this space
Mhm.
in one room, shaking hands, having a beer, having a
That's
coffee,
right.
and talking to one another. Yeah, that's really important. I know we're almost out of time. So what's one thing that, you want to pass along about this year's event? The floor is yours.
I guess maybe this is my overarching, I guess, for conference and why I love it so much. It's just the idea that as great as this week is going to be and as much fun as we're going to have, as much as we're going to learn, the reality is that people that benefit most will probably never know it even exists. And
That's a
I
great point.
know, at the end of this week, there's an investigator that's going to walk with a new tool or a friend, right? Who knows who he's sharing that good story with. There's prosecutors that are going to learn a new technique. There's all of these great things that are going to happen out of these workshops. And when people go back to their communities, children are going to benefit as a result. And so I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having all of our friends in Dallas, to having a great week together, and then hearing all the good things that happen as a result.
That is a great way to finish off this chat. The ones who benefit the most are never going to know, but that's why we're doing it. We're
That's
doing
right.
it for them. So thank you. This was wonderful. It was lovely
Yeah.
chatting with
You
you. I can't believe
too.
we just met. I feel like we've known each other for 20
I
years, but
know.
this is a lovely conversation.
I know.
And I'm excited to see you in a couple of
2
weeks.
weeks. Yeah. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.